Brock Purdy. So to me, Brock Purdy had the worst game of his career. I also feel like his poor performance was a symptom of Kyle Shanahan being a fraud and having no answers for man-to-man coverage and no answers in the red zone. But that's not an excuse for Brock Purdy to throw 3 picks. On one hand, you had Patrick Mahomes. He threw a couple of picks. One was tipped. One, the receiver fell down. Otherwise, he was pretty safe. Didn't try to do too much. Took what the defense gave him and what Andy Reid schemed up for him. And he was scheming things up. Brock Purdy didn't have Andy Reid. He had Kyle, who isn't scheming anything up against man-to-man coverage. So what he could have done is scramble around, run around, throw the ball away, and lose. What he decided to do was be aggressive and lose. He had to choose, what way do you want to lose this game? And he chose, I'm going to go down swinging, which I appreciate. But the second interception was just awful. And the third interception was even worse. He was in the red zone. He threw the ball into double coverage and got intercepted, man. So it's not like he's a bad quarterback, but he's definitely not above reproach. I heard earlier this week that anyone who has anything critical to say about Brock Purdy at this point in his career is being negative for revenue. Well, I would say that anyone that crowns Brock Purdy after a season and a half is being positive for revenue, because that kind of positivity sells. But I don't think fans want to hear that shit right now. I think they want to hear the truth. And the truth is, if the 49ers give Brock Purdy $60 million a year or even $50 million a year, they're screwed for years. Screwed for years. Is he a franchise quarterback? Yeah. I mean, in the way that like Baker Mayfield's a franchise quarterback or Sam Darnold's a franchise quarterback. Like, yeah, you can win with them if there's a good team around him and you don't pay him too much. But once you're paying him $50, $60 million a year, you're screwed. Screwed. His arm isn't strong enough. He's just not good enough. He's great against zone coverage. Kyle's great against zone coverage, but against man-to-man coverage, arm strength actually matters. It does. You need to be able to, like, a wide receiver is running down the field with a cornerback on his back hip with outside leverage or inside leverage, whatever. Let's say it's inside leverage on his hip. You got to be able to fire the ball high and away or down and away only where the receiver can get it. Brock doesn't have that arm. Brock's great against zone coverage because he knows where the opening is. He can anticipate it. He can float the ball in there with anticipation and accuracy. He's great against that. But against man, he's ordinary. And if you take Christian McCaffrey away, he's ordinary. And even with Christian McCaffrey on the field last year against the Ravens, in the playoffs, in the Super Bowl, ordinary. Not bad, but ordinary. And now the interceptions are a real issue. I mean, what does he have? Let me count. He has 7 picks in 9 games. Excuse me. He has 7 picks in 7 games. So he has 9 picks. He has 10 touchdowns and 9 picks in 7 games this year. And then I want to do the count now. I'm sorry. I want to know. So he's played 7 games this year. He played 3 in the playoffs. That's 10. And then he had 2 at the end of the season, Baltimore, Washington. So he had 4 picks against Baltimore, 2 touchdowns against Washington. He, in the playoffs, had 3 touchdowns and 1 pick. So that's 5 touchdowns and 5 touchdowns and 5 picks in the final 5 games last year. 5 touchdowns, 5 picks in the final 5 games last year. This year, 9 touchdowns and 7 picks in 7 games. So that's 12 games. 14 touchdowns and 12 picks in the last 12 games. Am I wrong? I'm not good at math. I was an English major. I routinely made mistakes on my math tests. But I'm pretty sure 14 touchdown passes, 12 picks in the last 12 games. That's not good. That's a big sample size. That's 3/4 of a season. That's Daniel Jones numbers. Geno Smith is better than that. I'm not saying Geno's better than Brock. But if this is what Brock's going to do, when you take away Christian McCaffrey, he's not a franchise quarterback. Now, it would be nice to see what Brock Purdy could do if Ben Johnson were the head coach. But I'm not paying Brock Purdy until I see that. And they don't have to pay Brock Purdy this offseason just because he'll be eligible. No, He'll be under contract next year, and then they can franchise tag him after that. And if they learned anything from the Brandon Ayuk debacle, you don't just give out contracts because a player wants one. And the fans want it. Do you guys want Brock Purdy to get all that money now? Because in the offseason, you're going to want it. You guys are always player first. Come on. It's the York's money. Stop being stingy. That would be one of the worst decisions in franchise history, giving him all that money. I need to see him with Ben Johnson first. I need to see him with a different head coach before I feel confident and comfortable. Confident. That's a new word. Paying Brock Purdy. And one more thing. He lost to the Cardinals 2 weeks ago. Then he beats the Seahawks, and people are saying stuff like, man, he's better than Mahomes. Can we just stop for a second and just linger over that for a second? Anyone who said that Brock Purdy is better than Mahomes with a straight face doesn't understand what they're watching. Is covering a sport that is beyond them. And you know who I'm talking about. Guy will have a million advanced stats to tell you what you know isn't true. What he knows isn't true. You don't need one freaking stat to understand why Patrick Mahomes is better than Brock Purdy. You don't need a single stat. All you got to do is watch. It's that simple. If Patrick Mahomes were the quarterback for the 49ers today and Brock Purdy were the quarterback for the Chiefs, it'd be the same result. If Patrick Mahomes were the quarterback for the 49ers, even with Kyle Shanahan, the fraud as a coach, they wouldn't be 3-4. If Brock Purdy were the quarterback of the Chiefs, throwing to Noah Gray and Xavier Worthy and Travis Kelce, they wouldn't be 6-0. Patrick Mahomes is a great quarterback. He's a Hall of Fame quarterback. Whenever there's a moment where he has to make a play, he makes it. It's a scramble. It's a big scramble. It's a scramble to the side. It's a scramble up the middle. It's an incredible throw. It's a backhand flip. I don't give a damn what his numbers are. In every single gotta have it moment, he has it. He makes it happen. Does Brock? No. Brock's great when everything's going great. Brock's great when the game plan is going according to script, when he's winning. But once there's a little bit of adversity, seems like he tries to be a hero, tries to do too much, and forces passes that great quarterbacks wouldn't. And you guys ridiculed me for years about talking about Brock Purdy's interceptions in practice. What do you think now? You practice like you play. You don't experiment in practice. You practice like you play. And the only reason this interception issue didn't pop up earlier is because he was new. There hadn't been much film on him. But now he's not so new. He's been exposed to the league. His head coach isn't doing him any favors. He's lost a couple key players, and the interceptions are piling up. Literally 12 picks in the last 12 games. That's not good enough. That is not a guy who's going to get a 4-year contract worth $240 million. That's a guy who's not going to get an extension. Sam Darnold has better numbers than him this year. Geno Smith has better numbers than him this year. A 9-7 touchdown to interception ratio? Unacceptable. And I like Brock Purdy. But nah. We saw what a great quarterback looks like today, and it wasn't the one wearing 13.